Hey guys, what's up? This is Diego here at Cinemageddon Reviews. Well, we reached the 5th entry in my series of Transformers reviews leading up to Rise of the Beasts. Last time we talked about Transformers Age of Extinction, not just the worst movie in the franchise, but one of the worst movies of recent years, maybe even of all time.
Your car? Huh?
Let me just say I'm glad that's over, but this time we get to talk about Transformers The Last Knight. And let me just say before we get started that this might not be the worst one in the franchise, but there's a reason that this is Michael Bay's last Transformers movie. Yeah. Now, before we begin, as with all the Transformers reviews in this series, this is going to contain spoilers. You have been warned. Okay, here we go. So let me start off by saying once again that Transformers Age of Extinction sucked ass. It was a terrible film. It was just downright shameless at a lot of points. It had a lot of plot points that contradicted each other. It had terrible characters, and it was just a downright awful excuse of a film. When The Last Knight was announced, I was very much not looking forward to it, but then in 2016, the year before that movie came out, Michael Bay actually surprised me when he released a film called 13 Hours. And it wasn't his best movie ever, but it was pretty good. In fact, his best movie in years. So it made me slightly more optimistic for The Last Knight. That being said, the trailers for The Last Knight made it seem a little bit cliche at parts, so I was cautiously optimistic. And then after the movie came out and I saw it, I can definitely say that Transformers The Last Knight proves that Michael Bay is as tired of doing these movies as we are of watching them. First off, let's start by giving credit where credit's due. They took out a lot of stuff from Age of Extinction that I didn't like, and they did some stuff that I kinda liked. I'm trying to be optimistic here. First off, Megatron has more than 2 minutes of screen time. He's an actual recurring antagonist in the film. He has multiple scenes where he's not hiding and he's out there fighting the Transformers. There are some flaws with the character, but we'll get into those in a second. For now, let's just put a pin in that. Next, they don't have as much of John Goodman and Ken Watanabe's annoying Autobot characters. They're there at the beginning and at the end at the big finale, but for most of the movie, they're pretty much absent. They mostly just focus on Mark Wahlberg going on this adventure to find Merlin's staff. That occupies about 70% of this movie's runtime. The way this adventure is set up in context is great. There are some pretty good ideas being thrown around here with the Dark Ages. There was a really good scene in Nazi Germany too with Bumblebee killing Nazis that I honestly thought was really freaking cool. I would love to see a movie set in World War II with Autobots fighting Decepticons. Can you imagine just Autobots like freaking Optimus Prime just out there killing Nazis? That would be badass. Unfortunately, most of the execution in this movie is very lackluster. It's not total shit, as I said before, but it just feels very tired. It's like they're giving you stuff to look at, but it's also not trying to be entertaining, if that makes sense. I think the reason for this is there are things that we like about the characters, but the movie never really gives us any time to actually care about them. For example, Anthony Hopkins is established in the film as a knight who has a motivation he's trying to achieve, but for the most part, he's only in this movie to feed us exposition. We don't actually feel for this guy until he dies in the third act. There's a little girl that Mark Wahlberg rescues at the beginning of the film who adds basically nothing to the story, but she keeps showing up everywhere anyway. It's like, take me with you, I can do this, I can do stuff, and then she never actually does anything. We spend an unnecessary amount of time with her in the first, hour of the film, and then she just completely disappears until she shows up again out of nowhere in the third act. And that's another thing too, there are a lot of other things in this movie that don't make any sense. Like, for example, why entire cities have been destroyed and the world is supposedly under a constant hunt for Transformers, but they still hold car races in large stadiums full of people. It's almost like this movie takes place on two different versions of Earth. One of them is like a post-apocalyptic, almost like a third world wasteland, and then the other is England, where apparently people don't give a shit how much danger they're in. Let's go back to Megatron. In Age of Extinction, it's being set up that Megatron did die in Dark of the Moon, but he got reincarnated as Galvatron, except in this movie, he's just Megatron again. What makes even less sense is the military makes a deal with Megatron to negotiate over something, and they actually agree to release Decepticons from prison? I have so many fucking questions. How the hell is this even happening? Never mind the fact that Megatron is negotiating with the US military, because why should he have to? Remember in Dark of the Moon where he was blackmailing and manipulating people to do what he wanted? Why is he suddenly resorting to this? Also, why the fuck did the military actually agree to negotiate with Megatron? Megatron is the least trustworthy negotiator in cinematic history. Why would they suddenly agree to do this? What do they expect to get out of it? And most importantly, why are there Transformers being kept alive in prisons when in other parts of the world they're being shot on sight? Just so we could have a scene that rips off a Suicide Squad?
Nitro Zeus. Baby, free at last. Thank Megatron, I'm free at last.
To top it all off, the main antagonist is a character that doesn't appear anywhere else in Transformers lore outside of this movie. You could say that she was alluded to in Age of Extinction, but no, she wasn't. So it brings up the same point I made about Age of Extinction in my last video. Michael Bay legitimately does not give a shit what goes into these movies as long as he keeps making lots of money. And I think that was the point of making these last two Transformers movies, because this one, just like the last one, just feels like another corporate decision to just make one more. No matter how little sense it makes to the story that they're trying to tell, just make another one. Just make another one. It'll make tons of money. Who cares? The part that I found the most offensive about this movie was that they shamelessly ripped off of other movies that had come out earlier just to have a bigger audience. Like, for example, not just Suicide Squad, but also pandering to women by attracting a strong female lead, Wonder Woman, and then just doing away with her when she's not necessary to the plot anymore. Even worse, this movie has this scene.
Stop!
I am Bumblebee, your oldest friend. Optimus, I would lay down my life for you.
I mean, do I even have to say it?
Save Martha!
The one thing I can take comfort in is that even Michael Bay got sick of doing these movies. Right before The Last Night came out, I think he made an announcement that this is going to be his last one. He was tired, he'd had enough, and quite frankly, so did we. Because The Last Night might not be as bad as Age of Extinction, and it's marginally better than Revenge of the Fallen, but it also shows that this franchise was milked way too much, and they honestly just should have stopped at Dark of the Moon. So for that reason, my rating for Transformers The Last Night is 2 out of 10. And that was the last Transformers movie directed by Michael Bay. This time I can actually breathe a sigh of relief, because the next movie in this franchise is Bumblebee, so stay tuned for my...
Teaches you to make that stupid Michael Bay joke after I warned you not to. Well, he's dead. But now how the hell am I supposed to get these videos out? Actually?
You got the touch. You got
I can make this work.